the silent dreams.
There are some who see more than others. Not in the sense of better vision, keener eyes, superior observation, but in the sense of perceiving layers that most people never notice. The way light falls and reveals what shadow hides. The way a room holds the memory of who occupied it. The way a landscape contains not just what is present, but what has been and what waits to emerge. Artists often possess this sight. The best ones do anyway. They look at a face and see not just features but character. They look at a building and see not just architecture but accumulated time. They look at the world and see through its surface to something deeper, something true, something that exists whether or not anyone else can perceive it. Eleanor Hartwell is such an artist. She is 32 years old, unmarried, professionally trained at the Slade School of Fine Art in London. She makes her living painting commissioned portraits and landscapes for wealthy clients who want their estates and families immortalized in oil. She is good at her work, technically accomplished, artistically sensitive, and reliable in her delivery. But she possesses something beyond technical skill. She sees what is actually there, not what people wish were there. And what she sees, she paints, even when it disturbs her clients, even when it reveals more than was commissioned. This has made her career difficult. Clients who request flattering portraits do not appreciate when she paints the sadness in their eyes, the tension in their marriages, the emptiness in their grand houses. She has learned to be more subtle, to suggest rather than declare, to hint at truth without forcing viewers to confront it. But some truths cannot be hidden. Some realities insist on being seen. Tonight, Eleanor travels to Blackwood Estate in Derbyshire. She has been commissioned by the new owner, Mr. Thomas Ashcroft, to create a series of paintings documenting the estate, the house, the grounds, the walled garden, the landscape. It is good work, well paid, and she is grateful for it. She does not know, as her train carries her north through the spring countryside, that Blackwood Estate has been waiting for her, that the house wants to be painted, that it has stories to tell, memories to share, truths to reveal that can only be expressed through image, through color, through the language of paint on canvas. She does not know that what she will paint at Blackwood will not be quite what she intends to paint, that her brush will move according to older instructions, that the images emerging on her canvases will show not just what is, but what was, what remains, what the house remembers. She is coming to paint a property. She will end up painting a history, a haunting, a covenant written in brushstrokes and pigment and the accumulated light of 200 years. The train moves through the night. In her compartment, Eleanor reviews her supplies, stretched canvases, oils, brushes, turpentine, the familiar tools of her profession. She does not see through the train window the landscape changing, the way the hills grow darker, the way the old forest, regrowing now, saplings reaching toward the sky, seems to lean toward the railway line, the way the spring in the cleared land sends ripples across its surface, as if knowing she approaches. The estate is preparing, arranging itself, deciding what to show her. Rest now, let the story carry you. Let the images form. Let sleep come gentle, like paint spreading across canvas, like colors blending in twilight, like the slow emergence of truth from beneath layers of what we thought we knew. The story begins. I arrive at Blackwood Estate on a Thursday afternoon in April, when the light is perfect for painting. The train journey from London takes most of the day, but I use the time productively, sketching preliminary studies in my notebook, compositions for the landscape paintings Mr. Ashcroft has commissioned, ideas for framing the house within its grounds, notes on color and atmosphere. My name is Eleanor Hartwell. I am 32 years old, a professional artist trained at the Slade School. I have been painting for 12 years now, supporting myself through commissions from clients who want their estates documented, their families portrayed, their wealth made visible through art. It is not the most creatively satisfying work, but it pays reliably and it allows me the independence I value. I am unmarried by choice. I live alone in a studio flat in Bloomsbury. I answer to no one except my clients, and once the commission is paid, not even to them. The carriage from the village station climbs steadily through rolling countryside. It is beautiful here, green hills, stone walls, the river winding through the valley below. My artist's eye notes the quality of light, the way afternoon sun catches on new leaves, the composition of landscape unfolding around each curve in the road. And then the estate appears. Blackwood House rises on higher ground, Georgian brick weathered to rose pink, symmetrical and handsome in the classical manner. But what catches my attention is not the house itself, but the quality of light around it. There is something unusual about the way afternoon sun illuminates the building, as if the light is being both absorbed and reflected simultaneously, creating an effect I have never quite seen before. I make a mental note. This will require careful observation, precise mixing of pigments to capture that particular quality. The carriage stops before the main entrance. A maid appears to collect my traveling case, and then a woman emerges from the house, perhaps 65, dressed in black, her posture upright and her expression measuring. "Miss Hartwell," she says, "I am Mrs. Crawford, the housekeeper. Mr. Ashcroft is expecting you. Please come inside." I follow her into an entrance hall of black and white marble, dark wood paneling, a grand staircase rising to a landing. The space is well proportioned, classically elegant. But again, I notice something about the light. The way it falls through the tall window on the landing creates patterns that seem to shift even as I watch, as if the house itself is breathing, changing its relationship to illumination moment by moment. This will be challenging to paint, and interesting. Mrs. Crawford leads me through a corridor to a sitting room on the ground floor. A man rises from a chair as we enter, grey-haired, perhaps 50, with kind eyes and the slightly abstracted manner of a scholar. "Miss Hartwell," he says, shaking my hand warmly. "Thomas Ashcroft, thank you for coming. I have been looking forward to this commission." "As have I, Mr. Ashcroft. Your letter described a fascinating project." "Please sit. I will explain what I have in mind." We settle into chairs, and Mrs. Crawford withdraws after arranging for tea to be brought. "I purchased this estate 6 months ago," Ashcroft begins. "It has a remarkable history, 200 years in one family, then a brief period under previous ownership before coming to me. I am a scholar of historical landscapes and sacred sites, and Blackwood represents precisely the kind of property I have long wanted to study and preserve." "And you wish me to document it?" "Yes, I would like a series of paintings, 6 to 8 works, depending on how you respond to the property. Certainly the house itself, from various angles, the grounds, the walled garden, and particularly the eastern portion of the estate, where there was once wild wood that has been cleared and is now regrowing." "What sort of style are you envisioning? Architectural documentation, romantic landscape, something between?" "I leave that to your artistic judgment. What I want is truth, Miss Hartwell, not flattery or idealization. I want you to paint what you actually see here, what the place actually is. Can you do that?" I smile. This is rare, a client who wants truth rather than pretty lies. "That is what I do best, Mr. Ashcroft, though I should warn you that truth can be surprising. Clients sometimes discover that what they thought their property looked like and what it actually looks like are not the same thing. I am prepared for that. In fact, I am hoping for it. This estate has layers I am still discovering. I suspect an artist's eye might reveal aspects I have not yet perceived." We discuss practical matters, where I will set up my studio, how long I will need for the commission, my daily schedule. It is agreed that I will have the use of a conservatory on the south side of the house, where the light is excellent and there is space for my easel and supplies. I will take my meals with the household rather than separately, and I will have complete freedom to move about the estate, painting wherever I choose. "There is one other person you should meet," Ashcroft says. My companion and research assistant, Miss Catherine Ashford. She has been here several months and knows the estate intimately. She can guide you to significant locations, explain the history and context of what you're painting. That would be helpful, thank you. Excellent, Mrs. Crawford will show you to your room. Dinner is at 7. I look forward to seeing your initial sketches. My room is on the second floor in the east wing. It is comfortable, four-poster bed, wardrobe, writing desk, a view over the grounds toward the eastern portion of the estate where the cleared land is visible, dotted with young saplings. I unpack methodically, hanging my few dresses, arranging my toilet articles, setting my sketchbook and drawing pencils on the desk. Then I stand at the window, looking out at the landscape I will be painting. The late afternoon light is extraordinary. It falls across the cleared land in long golden rays, creating dramatic contrasts between illuminated grass and shadowed ground. The young trees cast elongated shadows that seem almost alive, moving even though there is no wind. And in the center of the cleared area, perhaps 200 yards distant, I can see a small circular structure of brick, a well, perhaps, or a cistern. I pull out my sketchbook and begin to draw, capturing the composition quickly before the light changes. My pencil moves across the paper, establishing proportions, knotting the relationship between foreground and distance, marking where the shadows fall. But as I draw, I notice something odd. The shadows are moving, not slowly, as they would with the sun's progression across the sky, but quickly, as if time is accelerating. Trees that cast shadows to the left now cast them to the right. Light that was golden is becoming silver, as if sunset is rushing toward night in the space of minutes rather than hours. I blink and look up from my sketchbook. The view is normal again, late afternoon light, exactly as it should be, shadows where they belong. I look back at my sketch. The shadows I drew are wrong now, they don't match the current light. But I know I drew what I saw. I am trained to observe accurately. I do not make mistakes like this. I set down my sketchbook and step back from the window, unsettled. This place has unusual light. I noted that immediately, but this is more than unusual. This is impossible. A knock at my door startles me from my thoughts. Come in. A young woman enters, dark hair, intelligent eyes, perhaps 24. She wears a simple day dress and moves with quiet confidence. Miss Hartwell, I am Catherine Ashford, Mr. Ashcroft's companion. I wanted to introduce myself and see if you need anything. Miss Ashford, a pleasure. I am quite comfortable, thank you. She glances at the sketchbook on my desk, at the view from my window, and something in her expression changes. Recognition, perhaps, or understanding. You have been drawing the eastern lands, she says. Yes, the light there is remarkable. And did the light behave as you expected? I study her carefully. What do you mean? She walks to the window and looks out at the cleared land, at the brick structure in the distance. This estate has qualities that are difficult to explain, Miss Hartwell. Light that shifts in ways it should not. Shadows that move independently of the sun. Rooms that change depending on who occupies them. You are an artist. You observe carefully. You notice details others miss. You will see things here. And when you do, please do not dismiss them as impossible. The house is particular. It shows itself to those who can perceive it properly. Miss Ashford, are you telling me this house is haunted? Not haunted, aware, conscious, full of memory. And it wants to be seen, Miss Hartwell, truly seen. That is why Mr. Ashcroft commissioned you, not just to document architecture and landscape, but to paint what is actually here, including what exists beneath the surface, in memory and time. I should dismiss this as nonsense, should politely excuse myself and later mention to Mr. Ashcroft that his companion might be unwell. But I think of the shadows moving in my sketch, of the light around the house that seems to breathe, of the instinct I have developed over years of painting to trust what I actually see, not what I think I should see. What do you suggest I do? I ask. Paint truthfully, do not doubt your eyes. If you see something that seems impossible, paint it anyway. The canvas does not lie, Miss Hartwell. Whatever emerges there is real, even if we do not understand it. She leaves me with that thought, closing the door softly behind her. I return to the window and look out at the eastern lands, at the brick structure, at the light that falls across the regrowing forest. And I make a decision. I will paint exactly what I see, whatever that may be. I begin the next morning with the house itself. The conservatory Mr. Ashcroft has provided is perfect. South-facing windows offering excellent natural light, enough space for my easel and supplies, a view through glass that allows me to work while observing the grounds. I set up my largest canvas, 36 by 48 inches, and begin sketching the composition in charcoal. The house will be the central focus, viewed from the south lawn, with the formal gardens in the foreground and the eastern lands visible in the distance. This is familiar work. I have painted dozens of country houses for dozens of wealthy clients. I know how to flatter architecture, how to make brick look more glorious than it actually is, how to suggest grandeur through composition and light. But Mr. Ashcroft asked for truth, so I will paint what I actually see. I mix my ground colors, earth tones for the lawn, warm pinks and roses for the brick, blue-gray for the sky. My brush begins to lay down the foundation, establishing the basic forms and relationships. And as I paint, something strange happens. The house on my canvas begins to look different from the house outside the window. Not dramatically different. The basic structure is the same, but there are details emerging on the canvas that I do not remember observing. Windows that seem to glow from within, though it is midday and no lamps should be lit. Shadows that fall at angles that do not match the sun's position. And in one upper window, on the second floor east wing, a figure. I stop painting and look up at the actual house. The window is empty, no one there. I look back at my canvas. The figure remains barely suggested, just a hint of presence behind glass, but definitely there. I did not consciously paint that figure. My brush moved of its own accord, adding details I did not intend. I should scrape it off, should correct the canvas to match reality. Instead, I make the figure more distinct, add definition to the suggestion of a face looking out, paint it as I see it on the canvas, not as the empty window appears outside. Because this is truth too, I realize, not the truth of what is visible at this moment, but the truth of what the house contains, what it remembers, what exists in layers beneath the surface appearance. I paint for 3 hours without stopping. The house emerges on the canvas with more life, more presence, more character than the actual building outside the window. It looks inhabited in a way the real house does not. It looks aware. When I finally step back to assess my work, I am startled by what I have created. This is not a documentary painting of architecture. This is a portrait. The house has personality, expression, even emotion. It is watching the viewer, waiting. Remarkable. I turn. Mr. Ashcroft has entered the conservatory, is standing behind me, studying the canvas. You work quickly, he says, and with extraordinary insight. You have captured something essential about Blackwood. It is not merely a building, it is present. I may have taken liberties, I say carefully. The figure in the window, for instance, there is no one actually there. But there was once, and perhaps still is, in the house's memory. You are painting truthfully, Miss Hartwell. This is exactly what I hoped you would do. He points to other details, the quality of light around the windows, the way shadows pool in certain corners, the sense that the house extends beyond its visible boundaries into something larger and less defined. You see it, he says with satisfaction. Most people cannot. They look at this house and see only brick and mortar, windows and doors, but you see what it actually is. Memory made architecture, time made solid. Mr. Ashcroft, I must ask, what exactly is this place? Miss Ashford suggested the house is somehow conscious, aware. Is that what you believe? He considers the question seriously. I am a scholar, Miss Hartwell. I deal in evidence and documentation, but I have experienced things here that do not fit conventional frameworks. Doors that open without being touched. Rooms that feel different depending on who enters them. And most significantly, a pattern of preservation and care extending across 2 centuries that suggests the estate itself exerts influence over those who live here. And you want me to paint this, to document the inexplicable. I want you to paint what you see. If what you see includes layers that others miss, then yes, paint those, make the invisible visible. That is what artists do, is it not? I look at my canvas, the house watching, waiting, full of patient presence. Yes, I say, that is exactly what artists do. The next day, Catherine Ashford offers to show me the walled garden. It was Mrs. Blackwood's place, she explains, as we walk the gravel paths toward the eastern portion of the grounds. The first Mrs. Blackwood, who died in 1865, she tended it with extraordinary care. After her death, it fell into neglect, but it still holds her memory somehow. I think you should paint it. We reach a high brick wall, weathered and beautiful, with an iron gate standing partially open. Beyond, I can see rose beds, stone benches, a fountain. It is beautiful, I say, already composing the painting in my mind. Yes, but it is also sad, a place of care that lost its caretaker. Mr. Thorne, the groundskeeper, maintains it now, but he says it is not the same. The life went out of it when Mrs. Blackwood died. We enter the garden. The morning light falls through gaps in the eastern wall, creating dramatic contrasts. The roses are beginning to bud, not yet in full bloom, but promising color to come. The fountain is silent, its basin dark with old water and fallen leaves. I walk slowly around the space, observing, taking mental notes. This will make a powerful painting, the beauty and the sadness combined, the care and the loss. And then I see her. A woman kneeling beside one of the rose beds. She wears a dress from the 1860s, her dark hair arranged in a style I recognize from period photographs. She has shears in her hand and is carefully cutting stems, placing blooms in a basket beside her. She looks up as I approach. Her face is kind, tired, marked by illness. "You are the artist," she says. Her voice is soft, cultivated. "Catherine told me you would come. I am pleased. The garden deserves to be painted." I stand frozen, unable to respond, because I know with absolute certainty that this woman is not actually here, that she is memory, ghost, some form of presence that exists outside normal time. Catherine, standing beside me, can apparently see her too. "Mrs. Blackwood," Catherine says gently, "this is Eleanor Hartwell. She will paint your garden truthfully." Mrs. Blackwood, the ghost, the memory, whatever she is, smiles. "Then I will show you how it was, when I was here to tend it, when it was loved." The garden shifts. The roses are suddenly in full bloom, pink and white, heavy with scent. The fountain runs clear, water splashing softly. The stone benches are clean, the paths swept, everything vital and cared for. And throughout the garden, I can see details I did not notice before. The specific varieties of roses, the arrangement of herb beds, the placement of stones that creates both beauty and function. Mrs. Blackwood stands, painted as it was, Miss Hartwell, so that people remember, so that those who come after know what care looks like, what devotion creates, what is lost when we forget to tend. She fades, as does the garden's full bloom. We are back in the present, early spring, roses budding but not yet open, fountain silent. But I have seen, I know what the garden was, what it remembers being. "Can you paint that?" Catherine asks quietly. I will paint both, I hear myself say. The garden as it is now and the garden as it was, layered together, both truths visible at once. Yes, Catherine says, that is exactly right. I spend 3 days on the walled garden painting. It is the most challenging work I have ever attempted. I am painting 2 states of being simultaneously, the garden dormant and the garden in bloom, the garden empty and the garden occupied, the garden as it appears and the garden as it remembers. The technique requires careful layering. I lay down the foundation of the present state, spring buds, silent fountain, empty benches. Then I glaze over it with thin layers of the past, full blooms appearing like ghosts among the buds, the fountain's water visible but translucent, and in the corner, barely visible but definitely present, Mrs. Blackwood kneeling among her roses. The result is uncanny. The painting vibrates with double vision. You can see it either as a present-day garden portrait or, if you look more carefully, as a garden haunted by its own past perfection. When I show it to Mr. Ashcroft, he is silent for a long time. This is extraordinary, he says finally. You have painted memory itself, made it visible, tangible. This is exactly what I hoped you might achieve. It may be too strange for general viewing, I warn. Clients usually prefer more conventional representations. I am not a conventional client. This is truth, Miss Hartwell. Difficult truth, perhaps, but truth nonetheless. Please continue working in this manner. Show me what the estate remembers. A week into my residency, I decide to paint the brick structure in the cleared land, the well or cistern I saw from my window. William Thorne, the groundskeeper, offers to show me the way. He is perhaps 67, weathered and kind, moving through the grounds with the ease of someone who has worked this land for decades. As we walk toward the eastern boundary, he tells me about the estate's history. The covenant established 200 years ago, the agreement to preserve the wild wood and the spring it contained, the clearing 2 years ago that broke that covenant. The spring is sacred, he says simply, has been since before there were people here to call it that. When you paint it, you'll feel that, the weight of it, the age. We reach the clearing, stumps and young saplings, wild flowers, grass reclaiming bare earth, and in the center, the circular brick structure. As we approach, I feel what he meant. There is presence here, not threatening, but undeniable. This place matters in ways I cannot fully articulate. Thorne kneels beside the spring and dips his hand in the water. Touch it, he says. You cannot paint it truthfully without understanding what it is. I kneel and reach down. The water is shockingly cold, and then visions flood through me. I see the spring as it has been for thousands of years, rising constant from deep earth. I see the first people who found it, who recognized it as sacred, who built the brick structure to mark and protect it. I see Richard Blackwood making his covenant, promising to preserve this ground. I see Mrs. Blackwood sitting here, speaking to the water as if it could hear her. I see the clearing, the violation, the breaking of promises. And I see the guardians, 7 figures in old clothes, standing watch, patient and eternal. When I pull my hand back, I am shaking. You saw, Thorne says gently, the water shares its memory with those who can receive it. Can you paint that? I don't know. How do you paint thousands of years? How do you show time layered like that? The same way you painted the garden, I suspect. Show what is and what was. Show the surface and what lies beneath. The spring painting takes 2 weeks. I work on it obsessively, returning to the clearing each day to observe the light, the way it changes hour by hour, the way shadows move across the brick structure and the young forest growing around it. On the canvas, I paint the spring as it appears now, the brick structure, the clear water, the saplings, the sense of land healing itself after violation. But underneath, layered and ghostly, I paint what the water remembers, the ancient forest that once stood here, the 7 guardians standing their eternal watch, the thread of covenant stretching back through time, person by person, promise by promise, care by care. I paint water that is both surface and depth, present and past, physical substance and living memory. When it is finished, the painting is the most powerful thing I have ever created. Mr. Ashcroft studies it in silence for a very long time. "This will be the centerpiece of the series," he says finally. "This is what Blackwood is, memory rising from deep places, past and present inseparable, care written into the very substance of the earth." Will people understand it, I ask. Some will, others will see only a pretty landscape with unusual light, but those who look carefully, who are willing to see what is actually there, will understand, and that is enough. My final major painting is of the entrance hall. I have been avoiding it, I realize, because the entrance hall is where the house's awareness is most concentrated, where its presence is strongest, where what I will paint may reveal more than anyone is prepared to see. But the series is incomplete without it, so one morning I set up my easel in the corner of the hall and begin. The composition is straightforward: the black and white marble floor, the dark wood paneling, the grand staircase rising to the landing, the tall window overlooking the grounds. But as I paint, other elements begin to emerge. Figures on the staircase, not fully formed, not solid, but definitely present. People who have lived in this house across 2 centuries, still climbing these stairs, still moving through their daily routines, still occupying space even though they are long dead. I see Richard Blackwood descending, dressed in Georgian finery, a ledger under his arm. I see Mrs. Blackwood ascending, her hand trailing on the banister, her expression peaceful. I see Edmund Blackwood as a boy, running down the steps with a hound beside him. I see George Hartwell, the mill owner who cleared the forest, standing at the bottom of the stairs looking haunted and lost. And I see others, less distinct, servants, visitors, family members, all the accumulated humanity that has passed through this space, leaving traces the house has preserved. I paint them all, layer upon layer, present and past occupying the same space, the house holding them all in its memory, refusing to let them be entirely gone. When Catherine sees the painting, she gasps. "That is my room," she says, pointing to one of the second-floor windows visible through the landing window. "And that is Mrs. Blackwood in the corridor, and there, that is Mr. Thorne when he was young. How did you know? How did you see?" "The house showed me," I say simply. "I just painted what I saw." She studies the painting with tears in her eyes. "This is what it feels like to live here, to be part of its memory. You have painted it exactly." Mr. Ashcroft decides to exhibit the paintings in the library before I return to London. It is a private exhibition, just the household, a few scholarly friends he has invited from Oxford and Cambridge, some local people whose families have lived in the valley for generations. The 6 paintings are hung around the library's walls. 1. The house ***, Blackwood aware and watching. 2. The walled garden ***, past and present layered. 3. The spring ***, memory rising from deep earth. 4. The entrance hall ***, accumulated humanity. 5. The eastern lands ***, healing after violation. 6. The covenant ***, my final work, an allegorical piece showing the 7 guardians standing around the spring, with the house visible in the distance. People arrive in late afternoon. I stand nervously to one side, watching them view my work. Their reactions are mixed. Some see only landscape paintings, well executed but unremarkable. They admire the technique, make polite comments, move on. Others stop, stare, see what I have actually painted beneath the surface beauty. These are the ones who understand. An elderly woman from the village approaches the walled garden and begins to cry. That is exactly how it looked, she says. When I was a girl, my mother worked here. Mrs. Blackwood would let us play in the garden while our mothers worked. I remember the roses, the fountain, everything. You have brought it back. A scholar from Oxford studies the spring for 20 minutes. Remarkable, he finally says. You have painted geological time, archaeological layers, sacred space made visible. This should be in a museum. Mr. Thorne stands before the covenant for a very long time, not speaking, just looking. When he finally turns to me, his eyes are wet. Thank you, he says simply, for seeing, for remembering, for making it real. The exhibition continues into the evening. Wine is served. People gather around the paintings, discussing them, arguing about what they show, debating whether the ghostly figures are intentional artistic choices or accidents of light and shadow. I overhear two of Mr. Ashcroft's scholarly friends. She has painted the house as if it were conscious, as if it possessed awareness. Perhaps it does. Perhaps that is the truth she has uncovered. You cannot seriously suggest. I am not suggesting anything. I am observing what is on these canvases, and what is there is extraordinary. Late in the evening, when most guests have departed, Mr. Ashcroft asks me to walk with him through the grounds. We move through the gardens in the fading light, not speaking, simply walking. Finally, he stops near the eastern boundary, looking toward where the spring lies hidden in darkness. You have done something remarkable here, Miss Hartwell. You have documented not just a property, but a living relationship between land and memory, between care and presence. These paintings will matter long after we are gone. They are the visual record of something most people deny exists, a place where the boundary between past and present is permeable, where attention accumulates into awareness. Will you keep them, I ask, or sell them? I will never sell them. They belong here to the house. They are part of its memory now, its understanding of itself. Future owners will see them and perhaps understand what they have taken on when they accepted stewardship of this land. We walk back toward the house. Lights glow in the windows. Inside, Catherine is organizing the departure of the last guests. Will you come back? Ashcroft asks. Not for commission, but simply to visit, to see how the land continues to heal, how the covenant is honored. Yes, I say, I would like that. I feel I have only begun to see this place, that there are layers still to discover, truths still to paint. Then return whenever you wish. The house will be glad to have you. It approves of being seen truly, I think. I return to London with 6 completed paintings and a commission payment that will support me for a year. But more than that, I return with changed vision. I begin to see my other subjects differently, the portraits I paint for wealthy clients, the landscapes I document for estate owners. I see through surfaces now to what lies beneath. I see memory in houses, time in landscapes, the accumulated weight of care or neglect in the spaces people occupy. My clients find this unsettling. Miss Hartwell, this portrait is technically excellent, but you have made my wife look sad. Your wife is sad, sir. I painted what I saw. The commission was for a flattering portrait. I was commissioned to paint your wife. This is your wife. I lose some clients this way, but I gain others, people who want truth, who are brave enough to see themselves and their properties as they actually are, not as they wish to be. And 6 months after leaving Blackwood, I receive a letter. It is from Mr. Ashcroft, written in his careful scholar's hand. Dear Miss Hartwell, *. I write with news I thought would interest you. The paintings you created have had an unexpected effect on visitors to Blackwood. People who view them report seeing things they did not notice before, the way light moves through the house, the sense of presence in certain rooms, the feeling that the estate is somehow aware of them. Several have described it as learning to see what was always there but invisible. Your work has taught them perception. More significantly, the local historical society has requested permission to photograph the paintings for their archive. They say the images contain information about the estate's past that does not exist in any written record: details of the walled garden, the configuration of the wild wood before clearing, even architectural features of the house that were modified in the 1840s, but appear correctly in your work. How you knew these details, I cannot say, but I suspect the house shared its memory with you, and you translated that memory into paint. The spring continues to rise, the forest continues to regrow, the covenant continues to be honored, and your paintings stand as witness to all of it. Please visit when you can. The house misses you, I think. With admiration and gratitude, Thomas Ashgrove. I set the letter down and look at the painting on my studio wall, a small study I kept for myself, painted on the last morning before I left Blackwood. It shows the spring at dawn, mist rising from the water, the 7 guardians barely visible in the background, and in the foreground, my own hand holding a brush, about to touch paint to canvas. The house painting itself, memory become art, truth made visible. I pick up my brush and return to my current commission, a portrait of a banker's family. But now I paint what I actually see: the tension in the mother's smile, the distance between husband and wife, the loneliness in the children's eyes. The banker will likely refuse the commission. But that is acceptable, because I have learned to see truthfully, to paint what is actually there, beneath the surface appearance, in the accumulated layers of time and memory and care. The house taught me that, Blackwood taught me that. And I will carry that gift, that sight, that obligation to truth, for the rest of my artistic life. The canvas does not lie. What emerges there is real, even if we do not want to see it. And seeing, truly seeing, is both burden and gift. I paint